demonstration done? Do I have a tail light out? Oh, this is going to be a rough day today. It's going to be, oh man. Have you ever had a day like that? Has a police officer ever pulled you over? What did it feel like when those tail lights were going on and on? Round and round, and everybody's looking at you. You're feeling already like a criminal because he's behind you. Let's talk about what that's like, what that can lead to. Today we're talking about police brutality. What's the definition of police brutality? Police brutality is the abuse of authority by the unwarranted infliction of excess force by personnel involved in law enforcement while performing their other duties. It doesn't always mean that you're going to be brutalized just because you're getting pulled over for a traffic ticket or you have a missing tail light. But history has shown that many people have been pulled over, have been in venues where policemen approached them, and it turned out to be a really terrible situation. People were hurt, people were killed. Let's talk about some of those people. The laws that are passed to protect against police brutality we're protected by the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment says that prohibits unreasonable search and seizure, and we're also protected by the 14th Amendment, which includes the right to due process and equal protection. These are our civil rights that have started in 1886 and were passed in 1964. Let's talk about some of these police brutality victims. In the late 19th and early centuries, these are some of the people that have been brutalized here in the United States. Now, although history shows it's been going on from as early as the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, people have been brutalized by police officers. But let's bring it up a notch and talk about the 19th and 20th century. These are the people who are being victimized today in America. Poor and working class whites in northern cities, Jewish and other immigrants from southern and eastern Europe, Italian immigrants to crack down on organized crime, Mexican Americans are victimized. LGBT persons have also been victimized, especially in New York City. Muslims Americans are now being victimized as a result of the 9/11 crisis. Let's talk about some of those historical cases of police brutality. One of the first cases that comes to mind for many of us is Rodney King of 1991. Now, I don't know if many of you were born back then, but your parents were there, your grandparents were there. Everybody always refers to the Rodney King experience. Rodney King was a black man in LA who was attacked by 4 white LA police officers, and they beat him nearly to death. As a result, Rodney King's experience caused a massive riot in LA. That Rodney King experience actually made us start looking at Black America's Black Americans in America and how they are being brutalized. Yes, everybody has had police brutality. Everybody's experienced police brutality. However, the African Americans are more likely to be brutalized today in the 21st century than most. Although there are many whites and other ethnic groups that are still being brutalized, and it's probably, and research shows there's more whites being brutalized as well. However, there are more African Americans being brutalized compared to the percentage of blacks in America. Let's look at some of that. Some more historical cases. Freddie Gray in 2015. 6 Baltimore police officers were involved in this arrest. And Freddie Gray died as a result of these police officers. Sam DuBose in 2015, where a white police officer shot and killed him. The charges were dismissed. Walter Scott, 2016, a white police officer from South Carolina. He shot this man 5 times in the back, and he received 20 years for shooting him. That was the one that actually went to prison. Let's talk about some more. Walter Scott. This picture shows the victim running away. This is actually Walter Scott running away from the police. And one of the bystanders just happened to be recording him at that time. And that is why that police officer was convicted. Some of the statistics are showing we're going to talk about some statistics from today down to 214, because there were quite a few cases that were publicly shown on the media constantly, and you may have remembered some of these. Police, as of June 22nd, 2019, police have killed 425 people in America. In 2018, police have killed 1,165 people in America. In 2015, 1,307 people were killed by police brutality. And in 2016, 1,152 people lost their lives to police brutality. These are pictures of a lot of the people, African Americans, who were killed. African Americans, whites, Hispanics, Muslims. This is what police brutality looks like. This chart shows police shootings in 2018. Specifically, please note the colors of blacks, Hispanics, and white police shootings. As you can see, there are more white police shootings, and blacks and Hispanics are pretty much equal. In 2018, I want you to look at this chart. In 2018, there were only 23 days where a police officer did not kill someone. Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by a policeman than white people. Policemen policemen think twice today about killing a white person. Whereas before, centuries ago, they didn't have any problem doing that. But now they think twice because, everybody has, some people have a little more money, or they have a little bit more knowledge about their rights. So many times blacks are brutalized faster, 3 times faster. The other reason for that is because many of the black, as it has been historically, many of our black people have been brutalized due to racism. This is an excellent way by white America to keep African Americans in line, because they have thought that, always felt that our people, that black people, are criminals and that their behavior will hurt white people. So policemen, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, have been assigned to black communities, white communities, Mexican communities, Hispanic communities to protect and serve. But are they really protecting and serving? 30% of black Americans were unarmed in 2015, compared to 21% of white victims. Where you live matters. If you live in a poor neighborhood, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a lot of police brutality in that neighborhood. If you live in the suburbs and you have, or in the upper middle class neighborhoods, 9 times out of 10, you won't see any police brutality. Let's take a look at our chart. Our chart is showing states that have the highest police brutality of killing black men. You'd be surprised at some of these states. As you can see, Reno, Santa Ana, Scottsdale, Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Albuquerque. These are cities that we didn't even know that this type of thing was going on. Everybody thinks Chicago is like the #1 city that everybody believes has the most police brutality. Then California, then New York. Those states are not even at the top 10. So we need to really think about what's going on here in America. Some of those states that we talked about today you would never imagine that police brutality was even going on in those states, but it is. Let's take a look at some other fun facts. There's no accountability. As you can see down in the light blue and the royal blue, those are those that have been convicted and those officers that have been charged. Out of all of the violations in red, look at the number of people, police officers, have actually been dealt with. Police officers take the life of a citizen every 7 hours. Can you believe that? 52 police officers report that law enforcement generally ignore improper conduct. They turn a blind eye to it. They don't care. 84% of police officers stated they witnessed a fellow officer using more force than he should have been. But did they report him? No, they didn't report him. And 61% of police officers state they do not report fellow officers who use excessive force. Blacks are twice as likely to be killed by a police officer compared to whites. 39% of African American people were killed in the 100 largest cities in the U.S., despite the fact Black Americans carry the lower percentage of people. For example, we might be holding 21% of the population or 12% of the population, but 39% of Black Americans are being killed or brutalized or maimed. This has got to stop. Let's take a look a little further. Black police officers. The police force is made up of whites, blacks, Asians, Hispanics. This is great. We need as many officers of various ethnic groups and races as possible, because we have people in America in America that originate from those areas. However, for different reasons, Black American cops, police officers are killing Black Americans even faster than whites are. Now, when you take a look at the reason why this is happening, it's a twofold situation. One of those reasons is most of the time, Black cops are assigned to Black neighborhoods. And that's a good thing, because that's supposed to cut down on some of the racism. Because originally, it was the opposite. White cops were in Black neighborhoods.